Hey everyone, how's it going? About 2 weeks ago, I released a parody trailer for The Day Before called The Day After. In this video, I wanted to kind of break down how I went about making said project, and also answering a few frequently answered questions, such as, how is this a parody? So first off, to answer that question of how is this a parody, there was quite a few people, I guess, misinterpreting the video and some of its purpose. And I guess forgetting to read the big black background with big white text at the beginning of the video, but here's why it's a parody and how I went about making it. First off, the whole point is to parody The Day Before's trailers, and to me, they felt like they were all not fake, but they didn't feel genuine. They didn't feel like they were actual gameplay experiences within a big world. They kind of felt separated, almost as if like you had other developers creating these trailers, and sometimes that might happen in an actual development scenario. But for The Day Before, it felt so disconnected. It felt almost as if like each trailer was its own thing. It's like a different game. Yes, it was still under the premise of a zombie survival game, but it all felt just not like real, I guess. And the first video was, you know, really well done, but it also kind of was a stepping stone for what came afterwards, and it was a big disaster. Once the second video came around, I was like, yeah, something's not right here, because it felt completely different from the first video. So at that point, I was like, you know, I would love to make a parody of this, you know, kind of making little funny jabs at it, not really trying to make something that was laughing per se, but kind of was like, oh, hey, this is kind of putting into perspective that anybody could technically go in the engine with experience, of course, with a little bit of money and with some time, they can whip up a trailer. And if they really wanted to do it in a malicious way, they could, in theory, take people's money, even though there's no actual game there. Instead, they're just using it as marketing material, and that's it. And that's kind of what the parody was kind of showing people, hey, with maybe 300 hours and a few $1,000s, you could definitely do that. Additionally, something really important that people might have not caught on, this is not a working game. This doesn't work. It's not a fully working game. There is a ton of things that are done halfway to make it seem like it works visually, but it doesn't. So I just want to preface that, because I don't want people to start using this video that I made as a way to tell people, hey, this one guy did something in 300 hours. Why is it that AAA developers can't make a fully fleshed out game? And I just want to make it very clear, because as a game developer, I feel like it's extremely important to tell people it takes time. Game development is not easy. There's a lot of little moving parts. It's not like a movie where what you see is what you get. There's a ton of things that could go wrong. And making an MMO like this, like if you were to actually make an MMO like this, it would take a lot of fucking time. It would probably take years and years and years to make something that fully works. Now, I don't plan on making an MMO, and I know a lot of people wanted me to continue this project, but I can't do that. I don't have the experience. I've been working on this for 8 years, but I still don't have the industry experience to be able to embark in such a large scale game. Which is why I would love to work on a co-op zombie survival in the future. And if you're interested in that, cool, subscribe. If you're not, that's totally cool. And I hope that another studio can make an MMO zombie survival that's within the kind of scope that The Day Before kind of wanted to go for. Because I think it's really cool. And like you, I am a PvP player as well. I played Tarkov, I played DayZ, I played all those games. I just can't make those types of games because they're very difficult to make with quality and something that's consistent and feels good. So just wanted to get that out there. Now, let me show you what we did fake though, because there's a lot of things in the trailer that we faked. Firstly, and I think the thing that is the funniest, is this city is essentially a movie set. What you see is what you get. Anything beyond that is nothing. In fact, it's nothing to the point where the beginning of the trailer is in an alleyway, but if you were to turn around, there's nothing. Nothing is there. There's no city. It's just a blank set, just like you would expect from a movie set, right? What you see is what you get. And this was a very important thing that I wanted to really push for in this parody. I didn't like, the only thing that actually works, funny enough, is the combat. That is the closest thing that would actually be close to an actual game, albeit there's no depth to it. It's not very interesting. There's some cool parts to it, but you know, whatever. The rest of the game is extremely faked. So the movie set, if you were to continue down this street, there's nothing around here. It's like, oh, hey, it's empty. But then you go beyond the truck and it's an empty street. There's no more of the apocalyptic mood or anything like that. In fact, a lot of the buildings are low poly. They're basically just flat meshes. So a lot of it is like a movie set, which is one of the funny things that I really wanted to point out. So there were a few people that wanted to explore the city, but there's really nothing there. There's just little parts. Like if you were to go here, there's basically nothing. There's no props. If I were to go beyond this blockade, there's nothing here. Although I probably should have made some stuff that would have been better to fake. We go past this alleyway here that we crossed through in the trailer, and there's nothing across here. There's nothing behind this truck. In fact, there's a zombie there, which I don't remember. I only focused most of the detail on the places where the player actually goes. You can see across the street, this is where we run away from the zombies. There's nothing on the left and right, and this is perfect because it's during the blizzard, so we can kind of hide those details. So it's extremely important to know that this was never a fully working game, to the point where we had to put some boxes here to stop the AI from seeing the players walk by here, just in case. Tons of little details all around, kind of doing all these things to kind of control the space, which is not uncommon for a trailer, but this is going on like an extreme level. So let's say we wanted to talk about some of the gameplay mechanics. This UI is actually mostly fake. These buttons don't work. They don't go anywhere. This equipment inventory doesn't actually work. These are just buttons that don't do anything. They just hover over. In fact, the other players that have a different player model, say like this, character model 2, which was our teammate, who has a broken jaw, as you can tell, still shows the primary player character, the server. So there's a lot of things that I didn't really work on because nobody would see it except for the actors in the server. And as you can tell, I also have cheat buttons to basically switch the player model. We had teleport buttons to teleport us to different areas of the set, I guess. And there's a few things that are working, right? Like some of the doors and stuff like that work. The looting technically works, kind of. But it is all like pre-placed. So all of the little items that we pick up throughout the trailer is all pre-placed. That's just going to show how much of this is all kind of built for the purpose of marketing material. And if somebody wanted to do this maliciously, if they put even a little bit more time into this and really like refined the visuals and stuff, because this isn't the most perfect looking thing in the world, but if they really wanted to take the time, they could do that, and they could create a whole like fake website and everything. And that was the point of the video, is to tell people that it is possible to do that with the right time, with the right experience. Someone could hire a game developer that could create the trailer and stuff like that, and then they themselves could, you know, take money from people. This zombie right here is actually not real either. This is just an animation that's being played with a sound effect. It's not an actual zombie. And then once I cross a threshold in this building, it will spawn zombies right here. They'll start roaming around, and then that zombie's deleted. So that just goes to show even more, you know, you might think, oh, it's a behavior thing where, you know, zombies ended up coming over here. Maybe they heard noise, but in reality, it's just, there's a box like right here that will spawn the zombies. If I cross over this threshold right here, you can see in the corner, overlap trigger box, you can start hearing the zombies. And then the snow as well as a part of that overlap box. Additionally, there's overlap boxes here that kind of set the weather and do all this kind of good stuff. Everything in here is essentially faked. This trigger box will trigger just regular snow, and then there's another trigger box around here that will start triggering the blizzard. And that's essentially how a lot of this was made. Now, the city was using a bunch of asset packs, but I did lay out the city myself, which is probably a waste of time, but it was kind of fun. And from a developer standpoint, I kind of just wanted to challenge myself, learn new things, and kind of improve my skills. And that was kind of the point of the project as well, is to kind of just, you know, where am I at as a developer? That was kind of what I wanted to do personally. Now, I did use a lot of assets, and a lot of people ask me which assets I used. I'm gonna put a list scrolling down on the screen. You can pause it at any time. I would say it was over $1,000. Might have been even over over $2,000, but I spent $1,500, give or take, on this project alone. And then I used assets that I had over time. So it might actually be even a little bit over, but that's really not that much when you think about how much it takes to actually develop a proper game. 300 hours, if I were to do that in man hours and like charge myself, I usually go for like $45 an hour, something like that. If I were to do that math, it would be 45 times 300, which in theory would be costing near to $13,000, $14,000 for this, right? Plus probably extra. So in reality, this might have cost $15,000 when you think about the amount of time it might have taken and all those kind of factors. But at the end of the day, when you really think about a full game is over like these kind of scales of games can be over millions of dollars. So imagine someone could have maybe 25,000. They could create a whole fake trailer, fake marketing material. They could scam not only consumers, but also investors if they wanted to. And that was kind of the whole point of the video, was to kind of show that this is possible. And some people did get tricked into it, even though I kind of put messages everywhere saying that it's not real. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that a lot of the gameplay mechanics actually don't 100% work. And the main reasoning for that is because I got lazy and because I found it kind of funny. So the server could actually see other clients doing things properly, no problem, right? Because that was the whole point. I wanted that to be important. However, if a client looks at the server doing something or looks at another client doing something, it'll look a bit like this. And that's just, one example of things that are broken. In fact, the client actually never sees the server throw the glass bottle at the car. They don't ever see any of that. In fact, all they see is the zombies start going to the car because enemy AI is all server side, at least in Unreal Engine. So all they saw was that happening. They didn't even know the car alarm was going off or anything like that because it was local. And, it's easy to make that multiplayer. Well, easy in quotation marks, of course. That's just to show that you can cut so much time just to create marketing material to kind of fool people and to kind of suck them in. Now, that wasn't the purpose. I'm not selling a game or anything like that out of this. If I make a co-op zombie survival game, I'm going to be completely transparent with everyone about the process, what I do. If I make a trailer that's kind of like, sectioned off, I will tell people that that's what happened because I think that is a good thing to do. Now, of course, yeah, you're not going to have as much hype doing that, but I think it's better to do that and to set expectations of people rather than fooling them. But of course, people that are malicious don't care about that. They want the most money possible in the quickest amount of time. I also utilize some great tools like Advanced Locomotion System, which is essentially this animation system, but I did put in my own stuff in here, such as, the baseball bat attack animations and stuff like that. I kind of put that in myself. They're not my own animations. This is actually an animation kit meant for long swords, for swords, medieval weapons. But I kind of didn't have any baseball bat attack anims, so I kind of made with what I had. Some of the shooting and stuff like that, I made myself with the aim down sight and stuff like that. I made that stuff myself because I didn't really like the assets version of it. So there are things that I did. The inventory system I made myself, and that took me about I think I stayed up until 6 a.m. working on my own version. I had another version that was broken and wasn't the best rendition of it, but I ended up redoing it and turning it into kind of more of like a Tarkov style spatial inventory where you had things taking up different amounts of slots and stuff like that. It's a bit buggy and there's issues with it, but for the purpose of this trailer, I knew that people wouldn't notice a bug if there was one. Additionally, a lot of the weather in here is actually not made by myself. It's using a asset called Ultra Dynamic Sky, as you can tell here. And I can easily control all of the weather from this asset. I can set it to a blizzard. And you can see everything in here is set to that. I just authored all of the, materials and stuff like that to utilize some of their functions, to be able to run through the snow and all this kind of stuff. And it's not the most optimized thing in the world. If I were to show you what the complexity of this scene looks like with all of these new tools, of course, I didn't optimize anything, but you could tell there's a lot of red in here, which is not great. In fact, most of the game only ran at around 70 or 80 FPS, which is perfect because we only needed to run at 60 for the video. For me personally, as a game developer, I like to aim for 90, 100 FPS at the very least. There are trailers out there that even go for 30 FPS because there's a lot of visual stuff going on and they kind of just bump up the numbers. In fact, I didn't even bump up the numbers. I think most of the video was set on high rather than cinematic or epic because those were running at around 30 or 40 FPS. So the trailer actually could have looked better than what it did, but I didn't really care too much. I didn't even put too much emphasis into the visuals of the scene. I think if I spent another 100 hours, I could probably increase the overall fidelity of everything. But I kind of just wanted to finish the project. I didn't want it to take much longer. But you can see this entire asset has everything there for me, and I didn't really have to do much myself. There's rain, there's light rain, there's sandstorms, there's overcast, there's all this kind of stuff. And I didn't really have to do that. That was kind of like a plug and play. So if someone wanted to, they could really just go in and throw some shit together. With enough experience, they could, I think, really have something that's extremely convincing. Now, this isn't to say that this isn't something new. The day before is not new. We've seen tons and tons of little different things just like the day before, but it was just on a different scale, I think. But we've seen tons of things on Kickstarter, tons of other games that have kind of swindled people to a certain extent. And you find out the development was an absolute disaster. Now, I can say that this isn't going to be a disaster because I'm not going to work on it. There's a lot of things that would have to be done for this to work. A MMO is extremely difficult, and I just want to rehash what I said earlier. Game development is not an easy thing. Just because I'm showing that one guy did all of this in like 300 hours doesn't mean that making an actual fully playable actual game takes 300 hours. It can take thousands, tens and thousands, and it might need like a full team to get this going. It's not going to be one person that does it, especially because in an MMO, you're going to need people that are specialized in networking. You're going to need people that are specialized in art, programming, design, sound, everything. There's just so much that goes into it, and I really wanted to make this video to kind of really rehash that point because I don't want people to start shitting on game developers and using my video as a way of proving that. Other than that, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'd love to answer anything game development related, games, etc. Of course, I will be working on a co-op zombie survival. It is now in pre-production. I'm working on all the design, kind of figuring out some of the gameplay loop and how it's going to play out and some of the fundamental stuff that I want the game to really stand on. And I love survival games. I would have loved to make one years ago, but I didn't have the experience. Now I feel like I have the experience to kind of get something going, so I'm really excited to work on that. Other than that, hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you later.